Well, over the years since 1903, of course, there have literally been millions of words written about the characters and the people of the Tour de France. Well, one character that we all came to love and like in 1987 was Stephen Roche. He brought the goods home for Ireland for the first time. But then the year after, of course, after injury, he was out. Now this year, Stephen is back. And Stephen, facing up to the Tour again now after injury, do you feel 100%?
I feel, I'm on my way back, but what is 100%? Like, I've made a hell of a lot of progress at the start of the year for somebody that missed out on 88. But the facts of the situation is that the facts of life are 88 was out for me. And an athlete at our level being out for 1 year out of competition is going to be disastrous. Whereas I've had a good early season and I'm riding pretty well all through, but I still feel there's still a good margin of progression progress to be made. But this is the road to the top, and I've got to take this road to get back.
Well, you of all people, of course, know the pain and the pressure of riding the Tour de France with success. Let's just first of all remember 1987, because for me there's no doubt about my greatest moment, and that was when at the top corner of the picture there, as you came up the Planier, I saw your legs, and then I couldn't believe it was Stephen Roche coming up. It really was fantastic, wasn't it?
Again, Pedro Delgado has flipped Stephen Roche on the climb. But remember, at one point he had a minute and a half, and just who is that rider coming up behind? Because that looks like Roche. That looks like Stephen Roche. It's Stephen Roche who's come over the line. He almost caught Pedro Delgado. I don't believe it. What a finish by Stephen Roche. We never knew he was that close. Stephen Roche has risen to the occasion so well. He almost caught Pedro Delgado on the line. Surely Stephen Roche is now going to win this Tour de France.
How did you feel on that climb? You were catching Delgado. Did you know you were catching him quickly?
I didn't. My strategy is in any tour is not to lose too much time on any one day. And I take every day as it comes, because 1 second is lost today is 1 second in this game tomorrow. And when Delgado had attacked me on the foot of La Plania, I'd just been away on the Madeleine and on my own. In one way, people say it was a mistake I made, but if I had paid off, I'd have been the greatest man since Eddie Merckx, because I attacked Delgado on the flat. I'd gone the Madeleine on my own, but he caught me after the Madeleine, so the fairy tale to be ended. So he counter-attacked me straight away, and he went away, and I knew if I went with him that I wouldn't last very long with him, because I was still recovering from my effort I'd made previously.
But you had to produce then, Steve, the effort that in your own words didn't win you the Tour, but on that day it meant you didn't lose the Tour.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility you can win the Tour de France this year?
I think one of my biggest strengths is my ambition. And before a race starts, I never say I'm going to finish second.
Okay.
I'm hoping to win. I'd like to win. And God only knows. I want to win, and I'll do everything in my power to win. But if I don't win, it's not that I haven't tried.
The Col d'Aubisque, 5,643 feet. The Col de Tourmalet, 6,979 feet. The Col de Périssourde, 5,177 feet. And the Luchon Super Bagnères, 5,841 feet. A selection of the climbing confronting the Tour in the Pyrenees over the next 2 days, 23,641 feet in total. Frightening, isn't it? Hello again. Well, the Tour starts here, and it'll be won and lost over the course of the next few days as the riders take on first the Pyrenees, and then, just for good measure, the Alps after that. Well, as they confront a climb for the first time today, the route also drifts past Lourdes, a place of pilgrimage for thousands over the years.
The Pyrenean Mountains this morning as they overlook the city of Lourdes, a sign of peace and tranquility. And just down the road, the riders of the Tour de France making ready for their approach to them. They will seek now their own inspirations for the next 2 days to try and lay the foundations of success. Greg LeMond at just 5 scant seconds ahead of Laurent Fignon. It really isn't very much at all now. Thierry Marie, 40 seconds back and can't climb, so surely he will drop away from the leaders. Pedro Delgado, last year's winner, won this race by over 7 minutes then. This year he's now got a bridge, almost the same gap to catch up. And the climber, Luis Herrera, he's lost over 12 minutes. What about Robert Miller, the man of the Pyrenees? He's won twice in this region before, and last year may have won even a third time before he was sent off course by a policeman. So the Tour de France is beginning today, and it begins on the climb of Col de Marie Blanc. This isn't a long climb, and it's not a particularly hard climb. And because today's stage is short, there may be no attacks on it. Once the riders are down it, they then go up the Col d'Aubisque, and that's a brute. The riders will start to test the others here. Pedro Delgado will probably try. I don't think Greg LeMond will attempt an attack unless Fignon does. They'll try to ride side by side. They can afford that in this first day in the Pyrenees. Then once over the Aubisque, we head up to Cotteret. The race has never finished there since 1953, and it should be quite a day out now, because today begins the Tour de France, and tomorrow might begin the final selection. Who knows?
Phil, thank you. Well, not too much has changed, as we've heard, in the overall classification over the past couple of days. Let's just check, shall we? Greg LeMond still in yellow, Laurent Fignon 5 seconds back. Sean Yates is still on that leaderboard, but that might be about to change. One or two of the other riders who we'll be expecting to see, as Phil said, over the next week. Sean Kelly, who says that he now wants to win this race. Stephen Roach, arguably the best all-rounder in the Tour. Pedro Delgado, 28th now, 6 minutes and 53 seconds back. Stephen Rooks, King of the Mountains last year, and second overall. Jan Teunissen, who was never far behind his PDM teammate Rooks last year. Fabio Parra, Scotland's Robert Miller. There's nothing between those two at the moment. Lucho Herrera is 91st, 12 minutes and 20 seconds back. All that could change dramatically now. The stage today, Pau to Cotteret, 147 kilometres, 91 miles, but that's the least of it. It's tough with the first category climb of the Tour and one higher than that to follow. Well, we're really looking forward to the action today. Paul Sherwin and Phil Liggett are tucked away at the top of the Col de Marie Blanc amongst some very tired riders. Phil, hello. What's happening up there?
So the race then on the climb of the Marie Blanc, and the rider in the Fagor jersey here is Robert Forrest. He's now gone clear alone, having made an attack about 20 kilometres before the climb, along with the Dutchman Adrie van der Poel. At the moment, Forrest has dropped Van der Poel, and as far as we know, he's being joined on the climb, or chased up it, at least by Gert Teunissen, the rider who was fourth in the Tour de France last year until the doping scandal took him away from the lead. So this is Robert Forrest on the climb, the first big climb of the Tour de France today, and as you can see, a massive crowd here. Well, further on, there is an even bigger one waiting to welcome the 188 riders in the Tour de France who set off this morning from Pau. Long, steady climb, an expected attack from a rider a little bit down the overall classification. But the news reaching us, in fact, that his teammate Stephen Roach is having a very, very difficult climb and has been dropped by the field, which is beginning to break up. And so behind Forrest, over the Col de Marie Blanc, Van der Poel goes over at 25 seconds, third Teunissen at 50 seconds in third place, a fourth, and with him is Beat-Breur, is Luis Herrera. They're at 1 minute 40 seconds, and the first part of what was the main field contains the yellow jersey of Greg LeMond at 1 minute and 50 seconds. So now we can move on to the 20 kilometres climb of the Col d'Aubisque, and the weather here in the Pyrenees, very typically Pyrenean, the low cloud and mist, and Indurain, Miguel Indurain, who attacked just before the climb began, has built a lead in excess of 2 minutes. He's being chased all the way up the climb by Herrera and Teunissen. Herrera has caught Teunissen, by the way. Beat-Breur has fallen back into the pack, and the group of 16 riders chasing contains last year's runner-up in the Tour de France, Stephen Rooks, Beat-Breur, who was dropped by Herrera, the yellow jersey Greg LeMond, number 1 Pedro Delgado, and Laurent Fignon, and indeed Sean Kelly. Bad news for Robert Miller. He's punctured and at the moment has lost contact with the leading group. And at the top of the Col d'Aubisque then, the situation, Indurain passes over the top first. Herrera and Teunissen are 2 minutes and 19 seconds back. A group of 16, including Laurent Fignon and Greg LeMond, are at 2.5 minutes. Well, that was the situation, and that has brought us to this now, because we're looking here at the face of Miguel Indurain, an attack which is proving to be quite a sensation, because he has now gained 6 minutes over the yellow jersey group of Laurent Fignon and Greg LeMond, and he needs just about 1.5 minutes more to give him the race leader's yellow jersey. Well, we expected an attack to come from the middle of the field, And Pedro Delgado has deflected the publicity away from himself and sent his teammates out in front to see if it's possible to bring home the yellow jersey tonight.
Well, Phil, this has been an incredible move by Delgado's team, and Indurain is a rider himself. As we go back to the two riders who are chasing here, this is Murguialdi and Fuerte, two other Spaniards. They're trying to get across to Indurain, but they're 2.5 minutes behind him at the moment, with another group 4.5 minutes behind. So the race really splitting up, but the main leaders themselves at 6 minutes from Indurain, they're still watching each other a little bit, and we won't see anything from them until we come to this last climb.
Out on the course, we're looking here again at Murguialdi and Fuerte, the two teammates, approximately 2 minutes and 45 seconds behind the leader. But the most interesting fact is that at the start today, Laurent Fignon had a little bit of a tumble at 37 kilometers into the race. He is apparently grazed down one side, but raced back into the field. Stephen Roche has not had a happy day at all. Dropped on the Col de Marie Blanc. He's also been dropped on the Col d'Aubisque. And so the riders now are split up. The main field is at 6 minutes. It includes the yellow jersey. There are a number of riders chasing the leader here, including Raul Alcala, the Mexican, with an outside chance of victory. He's 4.5 minutes back in a chasing group of 4. This race now is going to be quite dramatic on the climb up to Cauterets. It is a difficult climb in the last 5 kilometers, and a lot can happen. The whole face of the Tour de France, though, appears to be changing today, so don't go far away and join us after the break.
Welcome back, and we've been watching our first climbing of the Tour de France today. So far, every bit as good as we thought it would be. The situation as we go back to the race, we've got one rider away, Indurain from the Reynolds group, 2 chasing him, and a bunch about 4 minutes further back containing Laurent Fignon, Sean Kelly, and the yellow jersey of Greg LeMond. Here's Phil.
The good news for the British fans, and that is that Robert Miller is back in this group. He's had a hard chase because he had a problem on the Aubisque, and I think it was a puncture. They reported a crash at first, but then they said he was standing by the road with his front wheel in his hand, and it was a while before he got some help. But he's got back, and he's back in this climb, and of course there's always tomorrow for Robert. And in fact, as I speak, it looks as though we've got one of the Ver.Ⅱ riders coming up on the far right here to take a ride. It looks like it might even be Miller. It is indeed Miller, so Miller's well back in this bunch. He's come up to the lead, bang on cue. Thank you, Robert, as he hits the front. And now we'll see if Robert Miller can do something in the Pyrenees. Back up with Indurain, and he looks, Paul, as though the legs are beginning to cramp up.
He really is suffering now that he's got to the steepest part of this climb, and I've just got some news over Radio Tour that the gap is actually 1 minute 32 on Fuerte, who's chasing him, and Murguialdi is at 1 minute 43. I'm not sure what the gap is on the bunch, but they can't be very far. I think 4 minutes. 4 minutes is the gap now. And this is like Charlie Motte coming around the corner there, trying to get a bit of revenge from the fact that Thierry Claverola has had to retire today. And now you can see, we'll see the leaders of the Tour de France really starting to attack.
Well, this is the race now. This is the steep slopes of the climb up here. Motte has gone, and look at this. They've just caught Palacio, who went away. He's going back into the bunch as Charlie Motte has put in an attack. A rider who lives in the Alps attacking in the Pyrenees. This race could well close up on this climb because Indurain, I think, has hit the wall. He's slowing right down at the front. And there's a lot of life in this bunch because 5 seconds, Fignon might try to slip away and take them off Greg LeMond on the last few kilometers here to the finish. Motte climbing very steadily, wants to see what the gap is. We'll have a look too. There's the main field. I think it's Fignon himself who's come to the front, which means the yellow jersey of Greg LeMond will be tested to the full. Here's confirmation. 4:29 the main field behind the leader. But of course they've now reduced the gap of Miguel Indurain to a safe distance. He can't take the yellow jersey today. Fuerte is in between, but Fuerte was a long way behind this morning, 12 minutes and 8 seconds in fact. So they won't worry too much about him either.
Well, Phil, as we watch here, you can see the pressure of Laurent Fignon is actually exploding that bunch. And we go back to Indurain here, and it looks like he's really blown. He's trying to keep going, but he's really suffering. Keeps getting out of the saddle. He can't keep a good rhythm going. He keeps there. Look, that's no. I thought it was Delgado. It is Delgado. Delgado has waited. He let Fignon chase Charlie Motte, and Delgado has gone for the move himself. This is where he's expected to make his move on that last climb, and Motte, looking around, he can see Delgado coming up to him now.
Well, Paul Sherwin said to me a few minutes ago that this is the hill where Delgado would attack. He was absolutely right. Delgado has waited for the moment. This is a very steep last few kilometres, and he's going to steal back, if he can, a couple of minutes. Now, what sort of damage has he done here? Because this is Turnister coming clear. The man who has broken ribs and we thought wasn't going to figure in this year's Tour de France. He was a third over the top of the first mountain today. He's going straight up now to Delgado. Remember, it was Turnister who rode alongside Delgado for much of the Tour last year, along with Stephen Rooks. And they've caught Charlie Motte. And significantly, Laurent Fignon is relying on the buffer of the time gap he's built over the last week, because he's not going up towards Delgado. We go back to the leaders now, and the crowd clapping him all the way as Indurain climbs steadily, but without doubt he is slowing down as we go up towards the line. Turnister makes contact at the back wheel of Charlie Motte as Delgado turns the screw. Pedro Delgado, this is a man climbing back into the Tour de France without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, this is it. This really is the steepest part of the climb there. It looks like he's going to catch Ver.Ⅱ, who's just round the corner. And he didn't even attack Charlie Motte, he just pressed a little bit harder on the pedals. And Motte is there looking for a little bit of assistance from Tunis, but there isn't going to be any. Tunis comes to the front, tried to chase Delgado, but now is when Delgado's got to go and get that time back that he lost in that disastrous weekend in Luxembourg.
This is Indurain, not long to go now, not too much more pain to endure. He may have built himself enough time to just hang on for the stage win, but any thought of leading the Tour de France has gone. But I don't think that was ever in his mind. It takes me back to March this year when Miguel Indurain won the Paris-Nice race, because it was on that occasion, on the long, hard, stiff climbs behind the Côte d'Azur, where it was Pedro Delgado who paved the way to allow Indurain to springboard to victory. And now it looks as though the favour is being returned here, because Indurain has attacked to allow Delgado to hide and then use the final climb to take time off the rest of the Tour de France.
Well, there he's just going under, I think, the two kilometres to go banner there, Phil. And just round the corner, he can't be very far off catching Fuerte. And a little bit further up the road, I will think we're probably going to see Miguel Indurain. If you look back down the road, if we get a chance, you can't see any of the other adversaries of Delgado. And this year, Delgado is really going to have to try. Last year, he rode away from his opponents when he needed to. This year, he's really going to have to get rid of them and get back an awful lot of time, but that's what he's definitely doing today. As we go back up here to the front, it looks as if it's Miguel Indurain still trying to keep into his rhythm. You can almost taste the victory, but you never got the victory until you crossed that line at the top. There's the crowd, and nearly all the Basques, I think, here. They must have come over to watch Miguel Indurain and Pedro Delgado of the Reynolds team.
What a marvellous day out for the Spaniards today. Delgado now is climbing so smoothly. The crowd cheering him, shouting him, willing him, all but pushing him now towards the summit. It'll be a great one too. Indurain, Delgado. The spectator here runs along words of encouragement in Spanish for sure, because the name of the Spanish team is on the left leg of the man who was running alongside him, the Carnaval team. And when one stops, the next relay takes over. The rider who wore number 1 last year as the winner of the Tour de France carries it today because he was the winner of last year's Tour de France.
Just round the corner there, Phil, is the red car of the commissaire. In front of that is the yellow neutral service car. I would think in front of that yellow service car can't be very far from Fuerte, who must be just about hearing the breath of Pedro Delgado as he rushes up this climb to take as much time as Pedro Delgado. They're just going over, that must be now the 2 kilometre banner, and he can't be more than a minute and a half behind Miguel Indurain.
We're not far away from the final kilometre kite now for Indurain. He's just about finding his way through this wonderful crowd, enjoying the Tour de France on this opening day in the mountains. All of the flags being the flag of the Basque region of Spain. I haven't seen a French flag, in fact, fly here at all. They've all expected something special from Delgado, and he hasn't let them down. He started this day over 6 minutes behind. He's taking time now. If he keeps this tempo up, it wouldn't surprise me if he pinches back 2 minutes in these last 5 kilometres today, which will put him in just 4 minutes back, and he could do it all again tomorrow because the roads are steep for such a long way tomorrow. We've seen nothing of Fuerte in between. The rider who's twice finished second in the Tour de France is currently riding in second place again. That's on the stage, by the way, not in the overall standings. And he was hoping he might well have picked up Indurain on this final climb, but instead Indurain is surviving, and here he is. An excruciatingly long ride to the summit for him today, but he's done everything the Reynolds team expected of him. He's become the carrot, he's drawn the sting of the others, and he's allowed Delgado his chance to leave them behind on the very last climb. This is Pedro Delgado, and as far as we know, somewhere in between the two Reynolds riders, we have another Spaniard, Fuerte. And the flags still fly as they come up towards the final kilometre. Here we have at the finish of Miguel Indurain. I'm not convinced, in fact, that Fuerte is still in second place. I'm wondering if, while we were watching Indurain, Delgado may well have passed Fuerte, and Delgado could be in second place. We'll find out when they come up to the finish line, of course. 4.5 hours today. Indurain has without doubt been the star of the stage, raking away on the climb of the Col d'Orbis, fully deserving his win today. There'll be terrific celebrations in the Reynolds camp. Oh, what a lovely win for the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France now. Indurain, and the clock starts on the rest of the riders to come up to the climb. And there is Fuerte. He has survived. We didn't see him, but he has survived. And for the third time on the stage of the Tour de France, he's been robbed of a victory. He comes home and he's closed all the time on Indurain. He couldn't quite close on him quick enough. He's going to cross the line just 26 seconds behind. So he did a very, very good climb, but it wasn't good enough. But here now is the rider who's going to set the time that the others will worry about. Delgado climbing up towards the finish, down and out after one day of the Tour de France, and now very much a challenge again. I don't think anybody has ever won the Tour de France after being in last position on the opening day of it, and you know, more and more that must be becoming feasible now. This is a warning to the rest that he is coming back. A cheeky stealing of a couple of minutes maybe in the last 5 kilometres of the stage. He's not wasted any energy trying to go for a long one today. He's waited just to steal a couple of minutes on the line, if that's what he's got. Fighting his way up to the line for third place. First and third for the Reynolds team. He slipped the gear up, he fights for the seconds, he comes across 1 minute and 28 seconds behind, and look at this, Fignon has had to do something special, and so has Le Mans, because they're separated by only 5 seconds. Le Mans will keep his yellow jersey, and Fignon will keep his second place, and what a ride by Sean Kelly here. Kelly is going to consolidate his lead in the green jersey as the most consistent finisher, because Kelly is here. They picked up Ternisa. As they come up to the line, the clock is what counts. Delgado has not got over much. He's in fact only picked up about 20 seconds or so. So we can see the replay here of the remnants of that lead group coming in as the clock counts towards 2 minutes. And in this group, Laurent Fignon and the yellow jersey of Greg LeMond. But as they come up to the line, it's Sean Kelly who throws one to the climbers, and he finishes an excellent 4th place, just ahead of Stephen Rooks and Gert Ternisa.
So the 1 to 6 today, Indurain, who did a great job for the Reynolds team. Fuerte, 3rd Delgado, 4th Kelly, and that's another good ride from the Irishman. Rooks, who might be running into some form, was 5th, and 6th was Ternisa, his PDM teammate. Robert Miller finished just behind the leaders today, and he might have done a good deal better as well, but his legs went just at the wrong time.
Yeah, I hope I feel a bit better tomorrow. Normally, if I don't fall, I have a problem, and then I have enough energy for the end of the stage, but today I ran out of, as I say, I needed to put it at the bottom of the hill, so I was sweating and rain. When I came into the hill, I just couldn't go with the rest of the guys.
And Sean Kelly, well, he stays in green, and he's added the combined jersey now too, and he wants the yellow jersey as well.
Well, things went very well today. I was timing very well. Yeah, if I continue to climb like this, I think I could make a place in the journal. If I climb every day like I climbed today, but then I think I could make a good place in the journal classement.
Sean Kelly, who's still looking very good, and I'll confirm that for you in a moment. Stephen Roach, though, blew up today. Stephen, of course, a winner 2 years ago, came in some 15 minutes down on the stage winner, and he wasn't in very good shape when he came over the line either. Now then, that's the overall classification tonight. Le Mans still in yellow, Fignon second, but a lot going on behind them now. Sean Kelly up to fifth, 4 minutes 52 seconds off the lead, and Delgado's ride takes him 11th, 6:24 back. Well, we knew the mountains would shake it up, didn't we? Delgado enjoyed it, Roach didn't, neither did Martin Early, who came in some 13 minutes down on the stage winner today. Of course, Early was celebrating a stage win yesterday. What a difference a day makes. Goodbye.